Aaron?
Yep.
Says live.
Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. This is VA to VA. Talking about becoming a multi-VA company, and we're excited to be here today. I have Elisa called and Nanette. And Nanette, you'll have to pronounce your last name for me, please.
Sure, it's Telemac, so the H is silent.
Great, thank you. And we're here today. We're going to discuss some of the I wouldn't say difficulties, but some of the different things you might run into when you're trying to build a multi-virtual assistant company. And I think we have certainly run into some of those things, and maybe we can help you. And we would love to also have questions from you guys. So please pose questions so that we can answer questions. Also, Lisa, do you want to please introduce yourself and your company?
Hi, I'm Lisa Cole with Augusta Virtual Assistants, and I have a team of 8. There's 8 of us that um, support business owners in a wide variety. We do target realtors and attorneys specifically, but we have the means to support business owners in just about any genre.
Great. And Nanette, can you tell us about your company?
Sure. I run a virtual assistant business service. I called In Essence Virtual Assistants out of New England, and I service small businesses trying to build the infrastructure, so websites or social media management, or just getting started with their brochures and marketing materials. I'm one person right now looking to build my multi VA business. I actually my husband also works for me in a sales capacity for one of my clients, and that's been working well. And so that's given me a nice little foray into the multi VA business.
That's great. Thanks. And of course, I'm Tammy, and I am with Tammy's Office Solutions. And we specifically do many different things. I shouldn't say specifically, but we are a general virtual assistant company. We help with administration as well as social media, consulting and posting. We do PowerPoint videos. We'll help with customer service support and many, many other things. But the basic thing on our company is that we hire our subcontract disabled professionals to assist us while doing that. I'm disabled, and it was very important to me to bring work to other disabled professionals. So that's what we do for the most part. And to get us started, I know, Lisa, you had some things that you wanted to discuss in regard to, bringing on subcontractors and some of the basics where we start. And so if you would you lead us into that?
Well, the last couple of times we've met, we've talked about when to become a team leader, or when to build a team, how to know when you are ready to start a team, and then we've talked about how to vet team members. We've had Denise Duquette on last month, and she talked about her vetting process, and she had some really innovative ideas on that. So this month we wanted to kind of discuss managing a team once we've decided we want to build one and we've vetted our team members, whether it be one team member or 20. And I just have an outline of, once they are on board, how to manage them. And first, I have my team members, they do sign a non-compete, confidentiality, non-circumvention agreement. It's a one-time agreement that they sign between themselves and my business, Augusta Virtual Assistants. And it basically just talks about, as far as the non-compete clause, it just means that the subcontractor cannot directly or indirectly solicit, divert, take away, or interfere with any of my company's clients for purposes of inducing such client to patronize another business that provides the same or substantially the same products or services as my business. So that kind of keeps me from worrying about any team member going out and trying to Maybe they get upset with me for some reason, and they want to move that client away from my business. And then the confidentiality clause means that the subcontractor cannot divulge any financial, legal, marketing, or business-related methods or strategies, either of my business, clients, or third parties. The circumvention referral clause states that the subcontractor cannot circumvent a client from my company to work with them independently, nor can the sub work with anyone who's been introduced to them through my company outside of my company's contracted services. Because there are times when a potential client will call, I will have his needs or their needs assessment done. I will determine, based on the skill sets and the availability of my team members, which team member is going to best work with them. And then I contact the team member, ask them if they're available to work with this client, and then I introduce the two of them to get some more detailed information so that the subcontractor, and they do have a say in what they want to get from the particular project or service. I do give them that ability. They are independent contractors and owners, business owners themselves. So we work out a payment solution together, and then I go back and give a quote to the potential client and eventually a contract. So there is a period of time where that potential client and that subcontractor are discussing things. And so the non-circumvention referral clause protects my company from them going off and having a working relationship together.
I think that was a great point. Excuse me, Lisa. I think that one big point, because I also have, those clauses as well, because I think it's important for the confidentiality, of course, because you can be working with a lot of things that your client doesn't want other people to know, and especially real estate and lawyers, absolutely. And I work with insurance agents and things like that, and we certainly wouldn't want to let client information, out to outside sources or anything.
Right.
But the one thing that you said that I thought was really important too, that I hadn't considered, and we talked about this, was that you actually also talk about anybody you introduce them to. And so, if you happen to introduce them to somebody, they can't start a working relationship with that person, and I think that's really important, because that person might have become your client, but somehow becomes their client now. So I think that was an important part that I have to, think about and look at, maybe, introducing in my contracts as well. So I appreciate that.
Well, then there's a contract that the subcontractor themselves will sign that I draw up after we've contracted the services of the client, and the client's going to work with that particular team member. So I send the subcontractor an agreement that maps out all of the support they're going to be giving. There may even be specifics on what days of the week or what times of those days. It also maps out the length of that relationship. I usually start out my clients on a 3-month trial, because a lot of business owners aren't familiar with working with a VA, and I don't want them to feel like they're locked in. So we do have a trial period where they can learn how to work with a VA, make sure that that particular team member is working well with them, that the personalities don't clash, that everyone's getting along. So it maps out.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Lisa, but how long is your trial period for that?
3 months.
Okay, great.
3 months.
Because I think that's interesting.
And about 2 weeks before the 3 months is up, I do contact the client, and say, okay, our contract, our trial period will be ending in a couple of weeks. From what I understand, you're doing, y'all are doing well together, working well together. So, let's talk about extending that. And then we will talk about extending that. They can turn into what you would call a retainer client, where it's just long-term, ongoing support. But if it's a project,
I'm sorry. Have you ever had where the client just didn't work well with your subcontractor, and you've had to, maybe assign somebody new?
No, I haven't had that issue, but I have had the 3 months come to an end, and it's most likely the case is they realize that they need somebody in their office, that their
Sure.
systems and structure are such that they really need somebody there for whatever reason
Yeah.
it is. And I've given this example before. I worked with a bakery.
Mhm.
They were having trouble answering the phones and taking orders and being in the kitchen with their up to their elbows in batter, making cakes. So they needed somebody to take the calls. I had someone doing that, and it became a problem because someone would call in and say, "Are y'all there? I want to come by and pick up my cake." Whereas the bakers may be out on a delivery because they had odd hours, and the VA didn't know if they were in the office or not, and we and in the bakery or not. And we always want to come across that we're sitting right there. We don't want any client to think that we're in our pajamas, possibly, in our living room, possibly. Um, we want them to think that we are right there in that business. And so that became a problem. And then they were asking questions about certain types of cakes because it was a custom bakery.
Mm.
So they did, and they had proprietary project management software on a computer in the bakery that the VA could not access. So they ended up finding out that they really needed to have somebody in-house to take calls, to know who's there and who's not, and be able to access that software.
Mm. Yeah, those are all really, really great points because, yeah, I know I do customer service support sometimes too. And it is hard because, you're not right there and you want to present that you're right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you do need, sometimes they do need more support than you can give, or they need support right in the office. And I've had that before as well. And so, and I think that all of the entry points that you're discussing are really good. Now, you and I have talked, and the reason this whole thing started was because the three of us just said, let's get together because we're in different levels of where we are with working with subcontractors, and we wanted to help one another. And then we said, well, there might be others out there that want to do the same, and so that's kind of how this began. But some of the things as I'm growing and providing, having more support for more clients and thereby, getting more subcontractors, I am finding some of the struggles involved because, of course, there's always more work for me in the beginning in training because some of it involves training too on specific systems and things that nobody's had experience on because it's new software or it's specific to a client. And so therefore, I'm looking for relief, but the reality is that in the beginning, it's much more work for me until they get to the point where they can do it, themselves. And whereas you have the one-on-one client subcontractor, I'm actually the in-between person for my subcontractor and client because they really don't need contact with the client. It's generally a task of some sort. And truly, the client wants to work directly with me. They know that there are subcontractors, but they don't really need to work with them. And so they just, if anything happens or is wrong, they want to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the way, at least, and everybody's business is different. Now, Nanette, I would love for you to relay what you experienced recently and, kind of dipping your feet in
Yeah.
hiring.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues, you two are really great because you both have different models. Your multi-VA businesses are different. So, Tammy, you are the front person in front of the client, whereas Lisa, you let your subcontractors work directly, and you're just the project manager in the background, making sure the relationship is good. So I was trying to figure out for me, which of those two scenarios do I want to be? And I understand why, Tammy, yours would be that model because you're working with disabled people, and it probably works. That's a better model for you. And so, so for me to find out personally what I'm more comfortable handling, I decided to dip my feet into subcontracting through one of the services that are available to everyone, which is this one happened to be Freelancer, and another one was Fiverr. I have two clients, and I'm in a time sensitive position where I need to provide something that was beyond my a little bit beyond my scope. So I went and looked for somebody that could do the work for me, and it was a little stressful because I don't know these people. They're promoting themselves online, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do what I need them to do. But the beauty of it was that I'm safe working through these companies, because if I'm not happy, my money is not going to be it's not going to go away. I can get it back. And so both experiences were really interesting for me, and gave me an idea of how to manage, get something done, and work with somebody else, my client, and get my feet wet in what I consider a baby step into multi VA, and it worked out great. I mean, one person I wasn't that pleased with. She did the job, but not to my satisfaction totally. But so I got an idea of how to deal with that and what to do. And then the other person was fabulous, and we had a really good working relationship. And he didn't take a lot of training. He didn't take a lot of time. He just we met in a venue like this called TeamViewer, and we discussed what I needed done. I showed him on sharing my computer so he could see it. And the job was done, and it was a really pleasant experience. I think for myself, I could use somebody to help me when I get overloaded, and not have to pay a fortune. But at the same time, it gave me an idea how to manage projects, how to get my feet wet into dealing with other people. And so if anybody's thinking of becoming a multi VA, I think that maybe you want to baby step that way and see what it's like, and know what your weaknesses are and strengths, and while you do it.
So. Yeah, I think that's a great point, Ned. I think doing it the way you did it was certainly, I think, an excellent way to get your feet wet and to see, is this really what I want to do, and how to handle and manage everything. Like you said, Lisa and I have two different approaches just because our business models are different. And in mine, I think probably Lisa's is probably a little bit easier in some ways, because she kind of hands it off to them, lets them, although she keeps in contact. Whereas I end up doing a lot of the management end of it. And so talking about project manage, I'm doing that. Plus, I'm still doing client work. Now, the goal is to get to where I've handed off all the work, and I'm just managing the business. Whereas I know that this person's doing that task for that client, this person's doing that one, keeping the time goals and everything else. And so eventually that's, and from what I have read and everything else about building successful businesses, the best way to get there is to be at the point where you are not working in the business, in other words, on the work of that, but you are working on your business. And that's what everybody has said that I've read. And so that is my goal eventually. But there's a lot of steps in between there that you have to do, and a lot of hard work and a lot of time consuming.
Right.
Years and everything else.
And I find that trying to manage my time, I have to be really tight with my time, because I have to satisfy my customers' needs. I'm trying to understand my business model and create it without making too many drastic mistakes. And so I'm working overtime. But that's necessary to give myself the time eventually to enjoy, so I can have time to enjoy life.
And one of the things that I found out the hard way this past week, unfortunately, through an unfortunate event I was telling Annette about, I actually had a fall the end of last week out of the tub. So fortunately, I wasn't severely hurt, but I did end up with a concussion. I couldn't work that day at all, and even through this week was a bit foggy. So I had to be careful. But the problem was that Friday, there were things that needed to be done. And I didn't have anybody that could back me up to do those things.
Wow.
And so that's really difficult. And I think that's a big part of any business, is to be sure that you don't want to be the only one that can do it. everybody knows everybody can be replaced. And if you want to provide that client work to your client, you need to be sure that you do have a backup person or somebody that can step in and take that place when you need it. And so although I'm in the middle of building there, I'm not there yet. And so, we have to be careful as business owners to take those steps, I think, also to be sure that we do have somebody that can back us up, or that we can say, okay, this work can go here, this work can go there, because they told me no computers, no this. And of course, as a business owner, where it's 24/7 sometimes, you're on doing this or that, you're doing your client work plus social media and all the other things that you have to do. And so, of course, the first thing I had to do before I could go to bed when I got home from the hospital was get online and process something before I could lay down. And my family was like, Mom, God, and it was just one of those things, though, because it had to get out, And so I was fortunate that I had a subcontractor was able to process most of it, but then I had to do the end part of that. So I think that's really important. What do you feel about that, Lisa?
I'm blessed. I hated that you had that struggle, that challenge. My husband and I went on vacation last month, and the clients that I personally deal with, I told them way ahead of time and gave them contacts of team members in case something came up. Everything ran smoothly. If something like that were to happen to me, I do have team members that I can call and give them information, and they'll pick up the ball for me. I'm blessed, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
I know.
Well, the only reason I bring it up really is because as business owners, we just have to be prepared for those things. And it took me by surprise, because I've been down before with EMS, but I've always been able to work from bed or do something to be able to manage it. So this was a totally different thing where I was out of control of it and not able to really do the things that I thought I was going to be doing that day. And it can happen to anybody on any day. And, our clients are expecting that their work will be done on that day. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very blessed in that I have understanding clients, but if I had someone that had a need, got to go that day, get out, whatever, it would have been probably very different. So I was blessed in that sense that the clients understood, but I did have to get something out. And I did have a vacation this year and told them, like you said, way ahead of time, and they, certainly understood I wouldn't be available during that time, and those things. But when it comes to an emergency or something like that, we do have to have that person that's going to back us up, and that's what I'm working on now.
Right.
It's, Nanette, like you're talking about, finding that person that can be that for you, that you
Right.
click with, that works, that you can call and say, okay, this is what's going on. I
Right.
need you to do this.
Right.
And so I think that we have to have those people. And sometimes we go through a lot of other people before we find those, if that makes sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And, I'm fortunate that I have one person or a couple of people that really would back me up had they known exactly what to do. And I need to make that more available to them and, making that work. But there's also a fine line that we haven't talked about, too, in setting up subcontractors, is that, especially in the beginning when you're trying to get to that point between, I guess what I'm trying to say is the point where between when you are trying to hand off all the work to where you get to where you're just managing the business, but you struggle with, because you're used to getting all of the pay, and so now you've got to hand off a majority of that pay. And you see what I'm saying? There's a fine balance of, okay, how many do you bring on before you get more clients, and how many can you pay, and et cetera. And I know, I can't remember if one show we did talk about the percentages of pay, and that. And I know, Lisa, that you had a specific percentage, that you set up to do. And I think you recently changed that, as a matter of fact. Isn't that correct?
I did for a short time, and then I started taking some courses on moving away from the per hour charge, which it can be a whole different hangout,
Yes.
to packages.
Hmm.
Um, so I have, and my website went through a facelift this past month, and it's back up live, but I've not finished with a couple of pages, so I'm not blasting that it's revamped. I will Monday. It will be completely finished Monday. But so I have increased my prices. Going through these classes and it being drilled into me about the value that each of us has on this team, and that the client's not just paying for what we do for them in an hour. They are paying for our flexible schedule. They're paying for our experience. They're paying for the classes that we do take. Um, and so I have raised my prices, and I am at a 60-40 split with my team members, and they get 60%.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's exactly what I'm working on now as well. When you talk about offering to the customers and having to share that with a subcontractor, I also start looking into packaging. And it seems to me that it does make sense. It's really about the value and the results that the customer's getting, not by the hour and the time it takes to do it. And so I want to keep that out of the equation. And I'm actually doing that for one of my existing customers, and we'll be presenting it to them because they're getting a lot of value from my husband and myself. My husband is an extremely good salesperson. I'm very good at the technical end and of building his website and putting together an infrastructure that makes him look like a real company because they all don't live close to each other. So I need a buffer. Actually, the package is to give me that buffer so that we can take a break without working by the hour, knocking ourselves out for this company. Also, it covers the expertise that they're getting that they couldn't afford by hiring somebody full time for
Right.
both me or my husband. So those package deals are something that I'm putting together, and going forward, it allows me the buffer when I bring on a subcontractor, what I'm giving them to do the work, and what I'm getting to run my business and to have a quality life. So,
It's funny that we're all talking about that because I just recently did a revamp as well, and did a whole price sheet. And I'm actually offering both. I offer, of course, they get more value with doing the package.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly comes out to less per hour if they want to do the package.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I have clients that are specifically want per hour. They want to know what you're doing every hour and want that per hour schedule. So they're going to pay a little more for that because, if we have to be available then and they want certain things, in the expertise as you're talking about and the skills that we have and that we bring to the table, then that does cost a little bit more per hour. So yeah, so I actually split it up and did both, which for me was hard, and it's hard because we've heard, and I've heard this for a long time now, VA pricing all over the place, anywhere from 15, 20 an hour up to 65 an hour, and it's hard to know where in there. And of course, if you're doing lawyers and things like that, that's a whole specialty in itself and
Mm-hmm.
certainly demands a specific pricing and a higher model, I would think,
Mm-hmm.
than somebody who's doing general admin work, And so I think depending on what you're doing and what kind of packages you can offer, social media versus building websites versus, doing the paralegal and, all of those things, I would think definitely present challenges in pricing. But, and as much as I hear, and even as much as we talk on a lot of the forums about, yes, we need to have pricing models and things like that, I do not hear many people actually revealing pricing. And so that's very interesting to me. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's the competitive edge or what it is, but like you said, Nanette, you went on Fiverr and also on another Elance type thing. I can't remember which it was. And and found people. So, I mean, there's, always that avenue too. And we do compete
Right.
here in the States with those who are in India, Philippines, and all of that who want to do it for $5 an hour because to them that's really, a great salary. But then again, as we talk, we bring specific things to our clients that maybe, that they don't bring. So, what are some other possibilities or things that you all have experienced in running a multi VA team? What are the things, or even Nanette, what are you looking to that might be a challenge, more of a challenge for you?
Well, right now the challenge is trying to find that person that I can rely on, that's looking
Mm-hmm.
for work and has a good work ethic, who knows about time management, and it's not going to be an issue to be available to customers or to myself when there's a job that needs to be done. And so that's my big challenge among many, because I have to still, build my contracts and the work, finding work is not as hard as I thought it would be. There's a lot of people that do have a need, and it kind of helps to have a salesman husband, because he can go out and he knows how to find work. And so that's not my issue right now, but my issue is finding good people that I can rely on. And I'm not looking for a lot, because again, I'm trying to baby step my way into this, and I want to make sure, but at least one person that I could rely on and know that, when a job comes, they're not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't available," and even though we talked about it. I need somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
reliable, and
Yeah.
that's the part I'm struggling with right now.
Hey, Nanette, maybe many of us VAs should hire your husband to help us
I know. He would love it,
attract clients. Attract clients, because I hear all
Exactly.
the time in the forums asking how do you attract clients, things like that.
Right.
But I
Right.
have found that once you get started with clients, it seems like they just begin to attract. I don't know what it is, but once you begin with a few, all of a
Right.
sudden you get more. And at least that's what I've experienced. How about you, Lisa?
That's true. A couple of months after my daughter and I started this, she looked at me at the table and she said, "This thing's taken on a life of its own." I said, "Yeah, it has." And they just started. The team members and clients started just coming out of the woodwork.
That's
Mm-hmm.
great.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's great.
I think it's interesting how that works. Now, what do you guys do when something does go wrong? Or what if there's, I've had some instances even where, VA's supposed to, subcontractors, on call, so to speak, and supposed to be ready to do the work. Then when I need it done, either can't find them or they're now not available, things like that. And I know, Lisa, probably your scenario might be a little different because they're working directly with the client, whereas, I actually get kind of the call or the action. So then I put it to them. Have you found that any at any time in your business?
I I have had some clients call me and say, a couple of clients stand out, call me and say, "I can't get in touch with blah blah blah."
Right.
In one instance, we were quickly able to remedy it. The VA was leaving her phone downstairs and going upstairs. She likes to sew, and she sews dresses for her granddaughters, and so she just left her phone downstairs. So we devised a time blocking schedule
Mm.
to where the client and the subcontractor know certain times of the day, certain days of the week that VA is available for that client. And see, the client did have a habit of just calling at random,
Mhm.
well, can you do this? Can you do that? I have clients that do that. They'll shoot me an email, but they're not expecting me to stop everything I'm doing. They're shooting me the email to get it off of their to-do list,
Yes.
and they know I'm going to take care of it. So I have time blocks for my clients for my own schedule because I have 4 clients, and they don't know they're on a time block. Their structure is such that they don't have to have something done immediately. But I time block them in my schedule just to keep me organized. And then, so anyway, that remedy was very quick, very easy, and works well, and they're back on track. That client knows that she can only get in touch with that VA during certain days and certain times, and the VA it's conscious in her mind that she's got to have her phone with her during those days and times. So that's seamless. The other one, I had to let that VA go. She was lazy. She was giving sorry excuses. I'm sorry. She was giving sorry excuses as to why the work wasn't completed. And when I confronted her, I confronted her in such a way that to open the door to let her give me her side of the story. I didn't let on that I had talked to the client or anything. And she kind of went off at me through the phone. And so I immediately in my mind thought, no, this is not going to be a good fit. No. Because I know my personality, and if I wasn't on the phone with her, I would have put my hands on her. But anyway, I politely told her that I didn't think, it was going to work out. And I got another team member to work with that client, and it was fine. But, no, she just wasn't putting forth her best foot and putting forth the best effort. So it was on the VA side, side at that point, and she's no longer with us.
And that's really hard too. You bring up a good point. Like for me, and I love that you say it like it is. I wish I had more of that in me sometimes. And my daughter tells me all the time I need to be more like that, because I find it very difficult to like, I'll be real nice about it. Oh, that's okay that you weren't available. It's okay. I took care of it, But in the meantime, I was the one up till 10 o'clock at night doing everything and scrambling and going crazy, And I'll play it off like, okay, but, I don't want to fire, I guess, is what I'm thinking in my mind. Anyone, I think I'd rather find different work or do something different. But that's been a real struggle for me. It really has. What do you find the best way to deal with that? Like, how do you approach that?
Well, for me, if I get in that position, and I know what you're feeling is, I think it's just for women, it's harder to be tough like that, but aggressive. At the same time, aggressive. But quite frankly, the thing that's going to stick in my mind is that this is my business, and I don't want my reputation or my business reputation being ruined by somebody who doesn't have the right work ethic. And this is not a free ride. I'm not giving you money so you can go play. Okay? I'm giving you an opportunity to to pay your bills and enjoy your life, and it's a partnership. But the partnership has to work, where you respect my time and my business, and I respect your expertise and what you bring to the table. And if you can't do that, then I have no use to work with you. I have no reason.
Amen, sister.
I wouldn't say fire. I would just say the partnership is dissolving.
There we go.
Because we're both business owners. Me and the VA, the subcontractor, we're both business owners. So it's not a thing where I would have to fire them. And my contracts do say, because Georgia is an at-will state, but it is an at-will agreement, that they can slip away. Sure, I would love to have notice, but they can slip away. They can tell me that, and professionally, I would think they would give me some kind of notice. That way, that would give me time to fit the client that they have with someone else. And then again, sometimes it's got to be instant. Good thing she said what she said over the telephone. But at any rate, I don't have a problem with putting it out there versus not. I have a problem with the fine line between assertiveness and aggressiveness. That's what I have the problem with.
Yeah.
So
Now, I wasn't
very
indicating
well.
that you were aggressive, Lisa.
Well, I did very well with being assertive, professional and assertive, by telling her I didn't think we were going to be a good fit. But had that happened in front of, eye to eye, then aggressive may could have slipped out a little bit.
Well, we are human too. We are very human too, and so I think that's the hard part is really, and maybe it would be better for me to be in front of them. Maybe that would happen. I don't know.
And you can always do the rule, right? The three strikes, you're out. I mean, everybody has something that comes up, something happens. The second
Very
time, you're not
true.
going to be so understanding. It's like,
Forgiving, right?
okay, wait a minute, we can't have this again. And then the third time, okay, that's it. I
Right,
tried.
right. Like
Yeah.
I have a potential client that I told one of the team members would be giving him a call to get more detail as to his business structure, and and then she and I will talk about pricing, and I'll send him a quote. And so I called her. Today is Friday. I called her. I want to say Monday or Tuesday, and told her to give him a call. And then I asked him Wednesday. I saw him Wednesday. I said, "Has she called you?" He said, "Unless she talked to my wife, because they're in business together, him and his wife." He said, "I don't think she has." So I texted her Wednesday, and I didn't hear back from her, but she quickly called me yesterday and said, "I am so, so sorry. I've been real busy. I will call him today." And then he called me and said, "I would just wanted to let you know she did call and leave a message, but I haven't called her back yet, but she did reach out."
Mm.
So, it gets a little sticky when you're handing over a potential client and the VA isn't coming through. If she had not contacted him by today, then I would have moved on and given him to another team member. And I've had to
Sure.
do that before too, but because the VA was busy. But,
Hmm.
I haven't had any really, really bad instances. I mean, I put one on Google Plus last month, but that
Right.
ended up smoothing out, and she is still with us.
Great.
Oh, wow, great.
With us, and the client is happy, and that's the main thing, that the client is happy. And I've restructured things a little bit. I was under the impression that the subcontractor had told the client that she and I had gotten into a disagreement and that she was backing off the team. But that's not the case. When I got with the subcontractor, she told me no. She said I had decided to leave the team, but when the client called to give me some tasks to work on, I felt like, and her intentions were good. She wasn't mean spirited about it the way it came across to me from the client, but she said I felt like she needed to know, she had a right to know that I would be leaving the team at the end of the month. So I understand her intentions were right, and we did smooth it out, and they are still working together. But I am, at this very moment, my attorney is putting a clause in my subcontract agreements that everybody is going to get a copy and re-sign, that any internal issues will not be discussed with the client that they're working with.
That's a great point. That's a really great point because, yeah, what things are going on between me and a subcontractor should not matter to our client. They shouldn't even know any of that. They should just know their work is being done and it's professional and everything else. So I can understand why you want to do that, Lisa. And I know that was a really difficult time for you during that time. I wanted to pause for just a minute because I had some good comments and I just want to thank those that are watching. Coach Moore gave us a suggestion on time, keeping the time, and he's telling us that www.timeanddate.com helps. So I have never heard of that one. Have you ladies heard of that? No? Okay, so I'm going to check that out. So thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. And then also Pamela is saying that there's wisdom in planning the schedule and it keeps confusion to a minimum. So true, Pamela. Thank you. Because that is very true. And she also says, yes, there's definitely a difference between assertiveness and aggressiveness. And I think we can all agree we cleared that up. And definitely over the phone sometimes is much better. One of the things, and I can't believe we're down to like about 15 minutes because it goes so fast, but one of the things that I wanted to also point out in this particular HOA is that there's a big difference in what the expectation will be if you haven't begun hiring or bringing on subcontractors. There's a big difference in what that expectation is and what the reality is. And that's really, the things that I'm working out now, even though I've, done this on and off for a few years now. Now that I'm really in the mode where we have enough work and more clients and all of that, and I need to hire, um, the thing that I thought was going to create relief to my schedule is actually causing much more, I wouldn't say confusion because it's not that, but much more time frame or time consuming work than I expected, because not everybody trains at the same level. Not everybody's ready to have the work, all of it handed to them. And in the meantime, the person that is responsible for that, and that it always falls back on, is me, because they're my clients. And so the very thing that I thought would create time relief has actually caused more time to be added to the schedule. But knowing that the end result will be really good. The end result will be that relief. But right now, I think I just don't want to represent that, oh, it's great to hire subs and you'll get relief in your schedule and it'll be this and that, because there's always things to manage about it. Even once you've handed over that work, there's going to be things that always come up that always have to be managed, that you have to remind them of things or this or that. Just like with any business and hiring somebody, your staff, yes, they are business owners and their own, but you're then their client. And so they have to make sure that the work that, that's got to be done is done. And in the end, if you have 10 clients and you've handed out 8 clients, and one day suddenly 3 of those can't do their work, well, then all of a sudden you have that work back. And you better know how to do it and get it out the door on time. So that's the thing I think surprised me, and I wanted to make sure that those that are watching understand, if they're thinking about doing the same thing that we're in the process of doing, and at least it's done for 3 years, and I've done on and off, but really involved in it now, is, take it slow. I love that Annette's doing the baby steps. That was a great way to do it. Take it slow. But also keep in mind that once you get to a certain point, there is not necessarily a time relief, but a time added on. And there's going to be that until you are able to hand that over. Any comments on that, ladies?
I agree. That's exactly true. I mean, you have to think about it. You're in you're running a business, and I don't know anybody who runs a business that is playing golf all day. That's just not reality. Somebody's got to run it.
Exactly. I wish it were true, right?
Yeah, right.
Lisa, what do you think? Has there been any surprising aspects?
Surprising aspects. Well, I jumped in with both feet. I didn't have the luxury of the baby steps like Nanette is doing. As soon as the word started getting out, I started getting approached by professionals that being a VA was a perfect fit for where they were in their life. And I was like, okay. So then I had to pull together a subcontract agreement, and, I've just been learning as I go along. But no, I mean, I totally agree with you that even because my goal is to be total managing and have enough clients that all the subcontractors are slammed. They have to quit their part-time jobs, that they are working with clients, and all I'm doing is managing, because managing in itself can be a part-time to full-time job depending on what you have going on. So I have 4 clients of my own, and I manage. So yeah, there's always something to do. I never get to the bottom of the to-do list, ever.
Well, that's good to hear, because that's the way I feel almost every day. So I'm glad that you feel that way. because it's so true. And like you, I want to be to the point where it is just managing. And if somebody doesn't show up one day, I can toss it to somebody else or have to do it myself. But like you, I also have multiple clients myself and trying to also hand out tasks and work to the VAs. And so I think, I just want to be sure that we represent it clearly that it's great, and yes, it can be a very rewarding experience. I love working with my clients. I love working with my subs. I really do, because, and especially sometimes with the disabled, because they I don't know the best way to do this, but a lot of times the confidence is down, and it's really so cool to see them blossom and to see them experience excitement that they're doing this work, and then they begin to have confidence in themselves again. And so that is so rewarding, and it is rewarding, being able to complete tasks for clients and all of those things. So that is great. And I love owning my own business. I don't know about you ladies, but I love owning my own business. And it's just an empowering thing. And so, but there is also the reality that it's a lot of hard work. And when my family looks at me at midnight and says, "Why are you still doing this?" I say, because one day it will pay off, and one day it won't be like this.
That's
I
right.
hope.
Me
I
too.
hope. I also wanted to say to those watching, if you have any questions, we have a few minutes left, so please post any questions as well, that you may have. And Lisa, so are you getting closer to that point of management, do you think?
It's I just keep looking at it as a process. I am closer
Mhm.
than I was when I started. Um, but when I'm working on my business plan for next year, and of course I do it every year. Um, so I always give a projected 5 years out, like 2 years out, 5 years out. So I would like to see by the 5 year mark from here, not 5 years in business, because that would be the 2 year mark out. And so I don't see it in 2 years, but God could surprise me. He has before, He will again. Um, but I would like to see 5 years from now at the what would that would be 8 year mark for the business that I am managing.
I'm
And then after 8 years or 5 years of doing the managing and the clients, I may be bored. It may bore me to just
That's
manage
true.
because I'll be so used to doing
Mhm.
client work and managing the team that it may bore me. You never know. They say be careful what you ask for, and I may get to that point and think, no, I don't like this. After all, I need a client.
Then
Very true.
you can have
Very
your daughter do it, and and you can go golf all day.
There we
Sailing,
go. Isn't that perfect?
sailing, yeah, sailing would be good.
Sailing. Oh, that'd be awesome. That would be so great. And what I wanted to say too, I don't know, I don't think you said Nanette in the introduction. Don't know. Nanette also works a full-time job during the day and runs her business at night. So she is an amazing woman trying to get her business off the ground and also become a multi-VA company. And so I just think that's incredible. And so I think you took a huge step recently in doing, the baby steps, as you said. And I think that was amazing. And I think it's great that you and your husband are a team together. I think that's awesome. My husband's actually been talking about getting involved with
Oh, good.
mine too,
Yeah.
especially after the recent fall, because he said, "You need to show me how to do this so that I can assist you."
That's
So
wonderful.
maybe we'll be doing it together
Yeah,
one day too. And even my daughter is talking about it as well. So that would be
that's
great.
great.
I would love to, all, do it as a family event.
I drag my husband in at times. I just take him by the arm and, hey, help me with this. A few weeks ago, we had a
That's right.
private investigator, hand over a
Ah,
transcript, an interview with a victim, a translator, because the victim was Spanish speaking, and the investigator. And my paralegals worked on it because one of them has the transcripting script software, and the other one did the translating from Spanish to English. And the audio was horrible. But my husband has audio enhancing software. So he took the audio file and enhanced it, and I paid him for it for once, because it's usually like, I never get paid for this stuff, but I paid him for that one. But he enhanced the audio, and we sent it off to the paralegals and they said it was a tremendous help.
That's
So,
great. Hey, it benefits them
that's
to help,
amazing.
right?
exactly.
So it gives more time
That's
for
great.
you.
I'm having trouble again with the sound a little bit, but it might be
Oh,
on my end. But so I didn't get that full story. Maybe you'll have to later.
Did you hear me, Nanette?
I did. I
Okay,
loved it. It was a great
good.
story now. So, yeah, family affair.
Great. Now,
Yeah.
Nanette, you said your husband helps you on selling and other aspects, but he does work on client work also.
He has one client that he works for, and I'm trying to convince him because he's going from an office job to doing contracting work, and he really likes it, and he's seen the value of having working
Mhm.
from home and having his you know having a time to relax and saving gas in the car, which is a big thing for him, and but he's now I keep telling him, that's great that you have this client, but what's wrong with taking another one, and with the package deal that allow him to bring in maybe have somebody else that he brings in. The hourly makes him compelled to just work for that one company, give him 8 hours or whatever, and that's great, but they're like, sales is a cycle, it's up and down, and so he could take on someone else, and so I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, as I'm trying to build a VA world, I'm trying to push him along and how to be a contractor with his skills. So, and I think it would be helpful to him, and with the package deal, this allow him to take on another customer and work, um, and have flexibility on his work schedule that he doesn't have with the hourly fee. So
Mhm.
it's
That's great.
yeah, it's
That's
working
really
well.
great. I'm so glad because there's always that risk in working with your husband that it could not work out well. So that's
Yeah.
great. I'm glad that
It
that
doesn't work all the time. There
and
are
I
times
think
when I say, I'm going to my room and I'm closing the door and don't talk to me for an hour.
good for you. You have to know when to do that.
Exactly.
Definitely. Oh my. Well, we are down to only a couple of minutes. Is there anything anybody else wants to say in closing?
Um,
Any last minute comments?
no, this is a wonderful experience, and I'm glad we're doing this because I think that it's hopefully it's helpful to others who are building their business models and looking at, I think we all
Mm-hmm.
have, the three of us have different ways of doing it, and I think it's something that's great to share. So yeah, and it'll be nice to hear from other people about what they're finding. Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
that's a
Other.
great point, Nanette, that we do have different ways of doing it, and there's no right way. We're all doing it the way that fits our personalities, our business models, and the way that we are finding success.
Right.
And so I think that's true for a lot of people. We can maybe show them some different ways to do it. And there are some things like keeping time and blocks of time and things like that that are, really necessity to any virtual assistant work, whether it's multi VA or not. But
Right.
and I hope this is helping other VAs. I really do.
Me
Any
too.
last comment, Lisa?
No, I just enjoy hanging out with you ladies every month, and I'll always take away something from
Mm,
our discussions. And thank you, Tammy, for heading this up. And I don't think we're going to meet until after the first of the year, so I'm sure we'll talk in between time, but I do want to wish you two happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Same here, same to you. So, yeah.
Yes, and same to you and to everybody out viewing. And we just really, really appreciate all those that are watching. So until next time, thank you and keep questions coming because we will answer when we can. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.